Thank you for the reminder, even though I was talking about recording, oddly enough. All right, yes. So once again, this meeting is recorded. You can find it in Governance General. Our note taker today is Waveform, so thank you very much, Waveform. If there's any additional agenda items, questions, or anything you want to talk about, feel free to write it in the chat. You can ping Waveform as well, and we can kind of get to that at the end of the call. Excuse me. All right, so just a typical reminder that I give every month about Discord safety. I want to remind everyone who's part of Discord, there is no support ticket system here. There's no direct support system. Anyone who's DMing you and saying they can solve a problem for you, sending you any kind of links, anything like that is a scammer. Please do not interact with them. If you do get any of those scam messages, feel free to type in general chat, questions and answers, wherever you want. And just to verify it, 99% of the time we're going to tell you it's a scam. You can also report them in the hashtag report scammers channel. So please do be very vigilant. Do not input your 12 words or 24 words into any site, even if they tell you it is completely secure. They say they're Helium support. It is all not true. Okay, so please be vigilant out there. If you have any questions, ask them in public. We're happy to help you, and we'll take it from there, but always in public. Okay, and just another quick note. We've had some questions about not seeing Discord channels. So just to make sure you have access to see all the channels, you're going to click underneath the event section, top left of your Discord. There's going to be a section that says Browse Channels. You're going to click on that. You're going to select which category you want to follow. If that's all categories, select all of them, and you'll be able to see all the channels. Sometimes when you join our server, it's limited you to a certain group of channels as to not overwhelm new people, but you might miss channels that way. So specifically the governance and HIP channels you want to be able to follow along with. Okay, and next up, we have a fun new feature of the Discord. Thank you very much to the Moken guys and their developers. They have graciously let us try out this Ask Moken bot. So what it is an AI chat bot. They have it on their server right now, so we're testing it on ours. You can find it under the welcome section. So if you click welcome, you'll see it by scrolling down. It's just below the general section. The channel is called ask-moken-bot. And what it is basically is you can jump in there, you can do some quick stuff, which is pretty cool. So you can diagnose your hotspot. You can see if it's working properly. There's a couple of preset options when you join the channel. It'll create a new thread, and you can talk to the bot in that thread. I've seen some people use it, and I think they're not actually seeing that you can actually talk to the bot. So if you don't have to click one of those three options, there's little buttons there. You can actually say, how do I get my hotspot off the denial list? The bot will respond with an answer. So I will preface it by saying it's not perfect. It is still kind of getting tweaked here and there. Some of the responses may be accurate, some of them may not. Please verify in public with a moderator or mentor. And yes, hashcode, please do not share any private details in there. Do not share your seed words. Moderators can monitor those chats. That's not completely private, so please don't share any private information in there that you do not want shared. However, the bot is handy for simple little questions like that. And if you have any input on the bots, go play with it. Ping us in general or wherever and just let me know how you like it. It's pretty great so far. It's still AI. Like I said, it's a work in progress, but it is so far pretty fantastic. So thank you again, Moken guys. All right. So that's it from me. I am going to move on to an engineering update. So Noah, if you can give us an engineering update, please, that'd be fabulous.
Hey, how's it going? Okay, so a lot of different things going on. So done, or at least finished and deployed, we have the new hotspots view in the mobile app, which if you haven't seen it, update your mobile app and you can actually go and browse your hotspots via a map view. which is a feature that was in the old Helium app, I think, and was really highly requested. So we brought it back. Um, we added support for Solana derivation paths, which more on this later. There's definitely some confusion around Solana derivation paths. Right now, our wallet is now compatible with Phantom and Soulflare and Backpack and basically all of the other Helium wallets. If you create or Solana wallets, if you create a new wallet uh, in the Helium wallet app, it'll actually uh, be compatible with all of those other wallets. Whereas before, we were using a different derivation path, which was specific to the Helium L1. So, like, if you tried to export your seed phrase and import it somewhere else, it wouldn't work. Um, so this is a good change to get us in the right direction, but I think we have some more UX to work on to make it a little bit less confusing. Also, just kind of from a safety perspective, we're trying to do this to get in line with the rest of Solana, but that doesn't mean that you should be exporting your seed phrase and importing it into other wallets. It's actually very dangerous to do that just because it implies that you trust all of those wallets with your seed phrase. So when the Slope wallet got hacked, people who had Phantom wallets also thought they were getting hacked because they imported their Phantom seed phrase into Slope. So for me, I tend to try to keep my seed phrases on a per wallet basis. Um, but anyway, enough on that. We've switched to Yellowstone for our indexing, which I know most people don't really know what that means, but we've been having just woes with our indexing for as long as I can remember, missing records, which makes it so when you are trying to see like the location on your hotspot in Solana Explorer, it doesn't show up properly. It causes all sorts of other issues. So we've actually finally gotten that to the point where it looks like it's not missing any records, which is actually pretty important for the upcoming proxy voting feature because it's complicated enough that it requires indexing. Um, Queued up, we've got switching from the existing Pith feeds to the sponsored Pith feeds. Note that this is like a required update. They're actually going to stop publishing sometime at the end of this month to the existing price feeds. So if there's anybody who's listening that has built any applications on top of Helium, make sure you reach out. You should be switching to the Pith sponsored price feeds. They're very similar to the existing Pith feeds, but it is a V2, so it's breaking. We'll be deploying those changes sometime this week. Also, probably deploying sometime this week is the ability to set a custom rewards destination for your hotspots. This has been a pretty heavily requested feature, and you'll be able to see in the wallet app if you've changed the rewards destination. In audit right now, we have proxy voting, and we've also got an pull request. We've got the UI for both the wallet app and for Helium Vote. So this was a pretty big set of changes, but hopefully within, by the time the next community call comes around, we can have proxy voting out. Yeah, still to do probably for this, this next month is going to be cleaning up the Solana derivation paths because there's a lot of confusion around them. And then, proxy voting and probably also getting the like other hips out, so like HIP 109. And I will actually, it's a good transition. Abai, if you want to cover the status on all the in-flight hips.
Right. So there are a lot of hips that have been approved but yet not yet implemented. I wanted to give a quick update on where that is, at least from a roadmap perspective. So the ones that are out there, let me just see what's listed in this doc here. We have 109, 110, 118, 19, 22, and 25. Yeah, I think the way that this roughly looks, so HIP 110 is proxy voting. Noah kind of mentioned that one. Adrian will talk a little bit more about this, but I think we're ready to start looking for proxies and start to communicate that proxies can start registering themselves. We have some interesting things coming around proxying and how to get people to kind of communicate to more people that they want to be proxies. We want to actually integrate blinks, which is something that launched yesterday in the Solana ecosystem. Today you can vote directly from a Twitter feed, and we'd love to have people sort of post their proxy profile on Twitter as well, and have people delegate to them as well. So that is something that we want to start with, and Adrian will talk a little bit more about specifically the mechanics around this and timeline a little later in the call. For all the others, I think the way it looks, and there's a bunch of, just to give some clarity, there's a bunch of Oracle work that needs to happen for some of these HIPs, and some protocol work that needs to happen as well. From a timing perspective, I think it looks roughly like 122 and 119 happen in order. The things that we need to build for 119 depend on 122. They just happen to be approved in sort of different cycles. But from an engineering perspective, it makes sense to combine that work and sequence it that way. So those two will sort of happen hopefully over the next month or two. 118 is already in progress, and there's some work going on, and sort of the first phase of that, we expect that in the next month or two. 125 is going to be started. I think the first bits of it started today, maybe, and kind of expecting that over the next month or two as well. And then 109 probably later on in sort of August, September timeframe is our expectation. Some of this is really around sequencing and really balancing engineering resources that are available to us, both at the foundation and at Nova Labs. Some of this is around making sure things are audited correctly, and that's generally how we're thinking about these things. We'll post a little update talking about the sequencing, especially since there are so many HIPs that are pending implementation. The foundation will post some details about this in a written form pretty soon. There's a lot to build over the summer. So it's gonna be a busy summer.
Hey, good problem to have. Community is
high quality problem, yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. I just posted the community agenda in the chat too, if you want to follow along there. All right. Next up, we've got a makers update. Scott, if you can come up and talk on that, please.
Yep. So actually, a little bit of diversion from the agenda. So I want to talk about an issue that came up in thread around is in the DIY packet forwarder thread. So some folks in the community discovered traffic that was running on a hotspot that they did not expect. Thus far, it looks like this is restricted to Bobber hotspots so far, which appears to have some software running that was not expected and effectively unauthorized. That software is powering another blockchain node. So, couple things at a high level. So, one, there's software that allows for modification on hotspots, which arguably, that's a good thing in kind of Foundation's opinion. We believe in right to repair. We think this can lead to future developments around things like unified firmware that we've talked about previously for IoT hotspots. So, the idea that software can be modified is arguably a good thing. The other thing that I want to make sure I cover here is, the breadth of this is fairly limited. We're still doing data collection, but it looks like the number of affected hotspots here is in the hundreds, not thousands. So, the hotspots that we've surveyed so far, we're talking about less than 1% that are affected. That said, what should everybody do? One, definitely contact Bobber support. Keenan, can you drop the link in that actually? I recognize they are no longer an approved maker, but absolutely worth trying. Two, you should check to see if you have unexpected traffic. If you are unsure, if you are concerned, simply turn off your hotspot. we are continuing to do data collection here. Do want to highlight again, this is a number in the hundreds, not thousands. We're talking about less than 1% affected so far, but want to make sure folks are protected. So if you are concerned, do turn off your hotspot. We're going to explore a variety of options and what we can do here. So everybody can expect follow-up from the foundation. We will be popping things in comms channels around next steps, but otherwise, again, if it is folks specifically, I would say with bobbers, I mean, everybody should check and see if you have unexpected traffic, but we're pretty sure this is restricted to bobbers at this stage. Abai, is there anything you want to add on here? I know we're kind of high level right now, but anything else on the technical side?
Yeah, so I'll provide a little more context. There's some history here. There have been folks in the community who have noticed that some of these hotspots had, open ports, had SSH keys that were leaked in the past, potentially had firmware issues, and I think there's a variety of these issues that have happened in the past. The concern is that some of those issues might have introduced a vulnerability or an ability for somebody else to be able to install software that a Helium hotspot owner might not have wanted on their hotspot. I think it's pretty limited so far, and like the little snippet that I posted in the chat is essentially I have a list of IP addresses that are source IPs for anything that's connected to Europe's Helium packet router. So this gives you every single Helium IoT hotspot has to connect to the packet router, has to maintain a connection to the packet router. We sort of figured out how to, have a list of every single hotspot and their connected IP address. And so then we just have some scripts that are checking every single one of those IPs and whether or not this particular node, this Gaga node's open port is accessible. If it is, that's what that second list, that second number is. It's 330 out of 76,000 so far, and I'm not done scraping everything yet. So is this a huge issue? From a conceptually, I don't like it. I'll just be very clear, and I don't think, and the foundation does not like it. We don't believe that someone should be allowed to install software on your hardware. You should be allowed to install software on your hardware, obviously, as long as it doesn't conflict with the rest of the Helium network. You should be able to do whatever you want with your devices, and I think that's important. And that's kind of what Scott means by the sort of right to repair. I personally feel very strongly in that. And so, I think that I don't think we have reached out to Bobcat. We've asked them to look into it. We'll see if people get the support they need. Unfortunately, we as a foundation can't do much here outside of, informing the community, right? And giving people as many tools as possible within our scope and within our mandate. So that's what we're doing. One thing that I would say in addition to all of this is that Helium IoT hotspots, standard Helium IoT hotspots, should only be reaching out on the network now. We don't have a need for inbound ports anymore because everything is outbound. And so, you shouldn't have to put stuff on a DMZ anymore. You shouldn't have to put stuff, you shouldn't have to open ports anymore like we used to with our old L1. And there may be some folks in our community who kind of remember the old days when we were running our L1 on these hotspots themselves. You had to open ports and do things like that. So that's, it's a good reminder to make sure that you have decent operational security of devices that you might have on your personal networks. Unfortunately, these things can happen. And that's just something that I think is, well, we're going to keep looking at it. But just to be clear, we're not done with our investigation. I'm still running some stuff to try to figure out as much as I can. And, we're going to communicate more. We're going to try to provide people at least the information that they need. I don't think we need to have a mass offboarding of Bobcat hotspots. I don't think they're clearly not all affected. And so I think that there's a path forward here.
So thanks for and the supplemental technical details. As far as in general, just a reminder, separate from this issue, feel free if you feel that a maker is being unresponsive. Obviously, we're doing our work over here, making sure we're pinging all the makers that are now contractually obligated to manage everything around data credit top-ups to make sure they're being responsive. The community managers are continuing to monitor sentiment in Discord around any kind of particular maker issues so we can follow up and have them addressed. But again, it's not really our role to act as proxy for all customer service. That again, you should be dealing directly with makers, but to the extent that we're seeing issues in aggregate, that's where we want to make sure we can step in and help. If a maker should no longer be approved and are not fulfilling their obligations to the community. So thank you all for your help with that.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Yeah, just a quick note on that as well. So two things. If you're having trouble with closing your ports, or you're unsure what that means, how to do it, if you open ports in the past, you forget how to do it, feel free. You can always ping me in any of the channels there, and I can walk you through it, how to check and how to close them. So happy to help you with that. Like Scott mentioned, if you have any issues that we can try and assist with your hotspots, again, feel free to give me a ping in any of the channels. I can walk you through what I can. Anything more maker based, I'll kind of have to direct you towards the maker itself, but we will assist where we can. All right. So on to a governance update from Waveform. Take it away.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Good morning. I'll just post in the chat the GitHub call to action for Helium vote proxies. This is it's not a form you fill in, so just get that straight away. This will be to create yourself as a proxy so that others can identify you and vote for you by adding your public vote proxy ID to the wallet, so that you will be delegating, proxying your vote for them to vote for you in when they vote. We'll be doing additional methods of performing this in the future. This is just the first way of doing it. We're looking for people who can open a change on GitHub, fork this, and then deploy the update document that then we will merge into a public list of proxies who have said who they are. You don't, if you want to be a proxy, you don't have to be a proxy with your current wallet. You can just create a wallet and say, this proxy is me. You don't have to be effectively doxing yourself with your current wallets to be a proxy. We'll be verifying, obviously, a way of saying that the person who is this person is the person who says that they're proxying for. GitHub will be the first way of doing it. We're looking at how to do it another way in the future. The next thing I'm talking about is people are talking about governance documentation. We're going to have these changes in the proxy voting. If you want to work on the documentation for governance, creating new updates, even adding videos, adding your own best practices of how to do things, please get in contact with me. We're looking for people to create new documentation, and there will be compensation, as in the way of Solana Scribe, so compensation for doing documentation updates. So please get in contact with me about those. We have been talking about the success metrics in HIPs with the community and internally, about what we can do to improve how HIPs are identified as successful or not. In the motivation section of a HIP, there's obviously a motivation to create something, and that something is the success. But it's difficult sometimes to identify what the success is and to actually measure it. Do we measure by the action that's created or the result? Do we measure by a specific metric? Has the number of data-only hotspots increased? That's a metric. But do we measure it as an ongoing metric where we just say we can create a dashboard so we can see how successful this is? Or do we create a metric where we say success is measured by the number of data-onlys deploying doubling, for example? At the moment, quite often the success metric is something is bigger than it was before, which can be met within a few minutes of a hip going live, for example. So it's difficult to identify what success is. So we're talking about it internally. I'll want to engage with the community more about how we can identify how something is being, how it is successful, whether it's the result or the action that makes the success. So that's something to talk about in the next few weeks. And finally, always looking for feedback on the HIPs and events documentation. I've had some feedback. We'll be getting some more. They'll be going live on the documents site in the next month. Yeah, and as Hashcloud says, we're not looking for a reverting if a success metric hasn't been met, because HIPs can have rollback, as in HIP 113, that specifically had a rollback in there. What we're looking at is a way of measuring success, or even just a public way of seeing how successful what this HIP provided.
Just to add a little more to that, I think generally, and this is the sort of conversation that's having in chat. I think oftentimes authors have trouble coming up with success metrics, and they feel obligated to put something in there, at least to sort of say that, like, here's a thing that you can look at. I think that part's important. Here's a metric that one should look at is important, and I think it is important for HIPs to, even all the way to like creating a dashboard that says, like, here's the metric that I've been looking at over the last several months, and I think we can do better here. And if this HIP has changed, if this HIP was implemented, I believe that this metric will change, and that is good for the network. Really, the ultimate decision that I think the community is trying to make or trying to suss out with every one of these HIPs is this going to improve the network? Does this meet some objective of the network as a whole, or one of the sub networks towards its end goals, right? Like towards better connectivity today for sensors, or better connectivity for cellular plans, or for devices, right? Those are the real metrics that matter ultimately. And so sometimes I think these success metrics try to get there, but don't really provide you that like clear input output that you might need. It is often more qualitative than quantitative. The other thing that I would remind everyone, especially for the folks that might be a little newer to the Helium community, is that generally speaking, we've always rolled forward. There haven't been a lot of reverts in our network, and that's intentional. And we think that we will make changes along the way. We know some of them, may not be perfect in hindsight, but they do move the network forward, and it allows us to continue to iterate. And I think that that's important. So I guess I'll throw this out there. I think we should remove the success metrics section as a required section, but we should encourage all HIP authors to provide some metrics that are interesting, that lead to a qualitative understanding of the Helium network is getting better. That's maybe the thing that I'll put out there.
Okay, just double checking waveform if you had anything else to add there.
No, I'd finished there. Great
Perfect.
summary by Abai.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And yeah, for those of you new to the community, you can discuss governance and read all about it in the governance/HIP section. And if you want to talk to Waveform about governance, best spot is to go to the governance section and then the governance general channel. You can kind of read through there or ask any questions that you like. Okay, moving on, we're going to go to the events and comms report. British guy, come on up.
Hello, everyone. Hi there. First up, I wasn't on the community call last month. I was running around at an event myself at Consensus, so apologies for not being here last month. I thought I'd start with just a quick roundup of what we've been up to the last couple of months, and then roll forward with what we're up to as well, looking ahead. So a quick round up and catch up on what we're doing. Back in April, we were in Germany with Embedded Works and Rack. And then Hanover Mercy of Uplink and Heliotics. They're both our members, part of our membership program. While we were there, we met with lots of the partners and made lots of new contacts, helping to get that visibility out there about the Helium network and help build that community. In May, we were obviously over in Smart Cities, New York, and that was with Seed and Open. We were showcasing solutions and products for city leaders and the solution companies. And then we're obviously then over at Consensus, which was a great success. Lots of speaking opportunities and interviews. So we're running around with Scott and Abaya there, getting them up on stage, speaking about what we're doing over here at Helium. This week, we're at Sensors Converge in California with Embedded Works, and they're at booth 809 if anyone's around. Joey and Artie are there today, and thanks for calling in and being on this call, Joey and Artie. I know you're at the event as we speak. And then obviously Joey is fresh back from the Law Alliance event. So hopefully if Joey's going to be able to give us a little update of what went on down there also. And as ever, if you're going to events and you're out and about and you want support from the foundation here, or want to connect, please do reach out at hello at helium.foundation or to me directly, Nikki at helium.foundation. I'd love to hear where you're going and what you're up to and seeing how we can collaborate and work together, be that within the within the membership program or what you're up to there. Just let me know and let's see what we can do together there. And Joey, if you want to give us a little update on the Law Alliance event, that'd be great. And if there we go.
So I'm actually driving to Sensors Converge at the moment, so I apologize for some background noise here. It's been a busy couple of weeks. But the LoRa Alliance event was very good. The turnout from sort of the entire LoRa industry comes out here. It's kind of, in this segment, that the big events of the year are the Things Industries Conference, the TTN Conf, and LoRaWAN Live. And so we saw some community come out. We had Paul, Disc91. He came and talked to a ton of people, put together a really great blog that's like a nice summary of the topics that we saw there. And then Jubin from the company Uplink Network in Germany gave a fantastic presentation demonstrating how their organization is leveraging Helium with the gateways that they've deployed on antenna towers across Germany to the order of, I think it was 700 sites, which is incredible. But they are deploying heating control for large-scale residential settings and seeing a ton of success with that. So through sort of some of those topics, we've had some really promising conversations that will hopefully result in more roaming partnerships, more native LMSs sitting on top of the Helium NetID. And this also was, of course, my first in-person board meeting as a member of the board of directors of the LoRa Alliance. And so there's a lot of exciting movements within the LoRa Alliance. Unfortunately, part of being on a board is you're not allowed to talk about what the board does. So I hope to be able to point to some things in the future and say, yeah, these were the topics that were discussed, and here's the outcomes and what that means for our community. But suffice to say, I did share sort of a lot of topics around, recognizing that LoRaWAN needs more visibility in industry. A rising tide for LoRaWAN is a rising tide for Helium as well. And so definitely pushing the Lore Alliance to take more of charge in regards to that. But that's the quick summary of Germany. And then hopefully I'll be able to share some fun updates from Sensors Converge next month.
All right. Thank you, British guy, and thank you, Joey. And yeah, we certainly keep you busy, Joey. So literally calling in, driving on your way to the next event. So like I said in chat, we don't let you sleep anymore. Appreciate your service. Next up, we've got membership. Amy, if you can hop up on stage and talk about membership. See if I can find you here. Oh, there we go. Take it away.
Here we go. Yes, hello everyone. So membership, I think Nikki just gave a really good summary of some of the events that we've been working on over the past quarter with member companies, and RC on the comm side has been working on a lot of great stuff with members. I just wanted to quickly welcome a couple new companies that just joined the Helium Foundation program. They're companies that are collaborating with our team on things like PR and marketing, project support, events, other requests like that. So the first being Relay Wireless, which I'm sure a lot of the people here are familiar with, who builds tools for a while now in our ecosystem, working with network operators for planning and managing large-scale deployments of hotspot fleets. So we've had the pleasure of working with them for a while and are excited to keep doing that. And then the second company being Embedded Works, which Nikki also mentioned because they are at an event right at this very moment, talking about some of the deployments and solutions that they run on Helium. They're really focused in the IoT world on LoRaWAN hardware and software development. They're kind of general contractors for general IoT projects across a handful of different verticals. So we're really excited to work with them as well to help bring more of their expertise to the Helium ecosystem and then bring Helium into more of their projects. So yeah, that's my quick update.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Amy. Thank you. I just wanted to circle back real quick. I noticed Hashcode in the chat there was asking Joey what his favorite thing he saw at LoRaWAN Live was. So not to put you on the spot, Joey, but if you do have a minute to chat and give us a little spiel, that'd be awesome. If not, no worries.
Yeah, well, so sort of a combination of things. So while I was at LoRaWAN Live, we were seeing a lot of this data coming out of the demo team, where they are starting to collect all of the points where the demo macaron, which as a reminder, sends all of its data over the Helium LoRaWAN network. They can see exactly where those devices were when they were sending that data. And so effectively what this team has done is built a survey of every gateway across North America. And to that extent, they've been able to determine that I think it was 69% of all of the US population is within range of Helium Gateway. Like they are actually receiving payloads and they are covered with Helium. And then, that's the entire population. When we look at urban centers where we see most of the gateways, we're seeing upwards of, I think, 99% last time I looked at the map in Las Vegas and other cities. So the coverage of Helium is effectively 100%. And so with these tools, I was able to show this to a bunch of folks at LoRaWAN Live, and it really, set off the light bulbs for folks and thinking about the ways that they can enter markets or, expand their coverage. So that is a really powerful tool, and it's something that I'm excited to continue expanding on. There's some links. I saw Neil grab the last link there. Maybe he can find the stuff on Twitter and post that too. in the chat so folks can find it. But then, outside of that, favorite sensors, things like that, it's interesting to start seeing some competition in particular spaces. So I mentioned Uplink Network doing this heating control. Typically, Zener is the company that effectively owns that market for LoRaWAN. But Uplink found a new partner, Sonex, that is effectively the same solution. So they are into these market tie-ins with Zener wanted to effectively control the way they deployed everything. So that unlocked their ability to make these installations and build these customer relationships. I'm sure some of the folks in the community remember Slavin. He's the guy behind the Glamos mapper. So I got to run into him at LoRaWAN Live as well. Awesome guy. He, of course, had his Glamos with him, but then is also starting to build suites of his own sensors and building a portfolio there. So, on a smaller scale, he's a small team, but really exciting to see people like building their businesses around this. So that's probably my high level. I'll probably think of something else later, but that's a couple of notes there.
No, that's great. Thank you, Joey. Appreciate it. We can always circle back later if you think of something. All right. We're going to move on, though, to working groups. So first up, we've got the update from the IoT working group. BFG Neil, if you can hop up here, please. If I can try and invite you up here, actually. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Take it away.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yep, can hear you great.
So there's not been too much updates. We're still focusing on the same 3 HIPs. The first one is data-only hotspots, lowering the price for a data-only hotspot to join the network and set its location. We finalized the HIP now on the fact that it's going to be 50 cents to onboard a data-only hotspot and 50 cents to set its location, and it's up for voting. The next one is about staking rewards and using the Oracle balance. The Oracle funds to improve the voting situation, so people would get rewards for locking positions, which we believe will lead to more people voting and more people taking part. It'll also mean that we have more security in that if someone come along and proposed something that no one agreed with, we'd have enough to counteract it. Right now that we're not sure that we have that, and we believe that HIP will do that. And that's been finalised, and I think it's coming up for vote soon based on feedback. One thing we were, and I know it said about earlier, was the success metrics. How do you measure something that goes live when you've got things like proxy voting going live at the same time? Will that lead to an increase in voting, and will this hit a lot? So we took a lot of time to try and put some metrics in it, and that was a slowdown on that HIP. But and the final one is Gradodge one, which he'll talk about later. So that's what we've been working on. And we also had a look at the Bobcat problem. That was the thing we're looking at. And we're looking at some connectivity issues at the moment as well, members of the group. And half of us are up for election. So there'll be some new voting soon. I think that's everything.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And just to note, the IoT working group meets every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. And if you're in a different time zone, just click on the Discord events tab. It'll pop up there as IoT working group event. It'll tell you what time it is and in your local area. You can set a reminder. And also you can follow along in the IoT working group fishbowl channel. So that just means that the IoT working group are the only ones who are allowed to speak in there and type in there. It's IoT-working-group. You can follow along with their conversations that are going on. Those calls are recorded every Monday, and they are posted in the IoT working group channel. Just check the pins at the top, and you'll see all the past recordings, so you can always listen to them later on if you miss it. All right, next up, we've got an update from the mobile working group. 0 tweets. If I can pull you up here. If you're out there somewhere, let's give you a ping. How about that? I'm not seeing him in the chat, so maybe we'll have to circle back to that. Okay, you know what? We're just going to come back to him in a minute here. We're going to move on. So we're getting an update from Hashcode if you want to take it away.
Yeah, I think I gave sort of the quick HIP update earlier. I was going to use this time to talk about that a little bit, and then also a couple of other things that are on our mind, especially as far as networks and things like that. One thing that I do want to just start talking about with the community is that we've had a lot of interesting inbound interest on subnetworks and the subnetwork model. And so I kind of wanted to spend a few moments to talk about kind of what that model is and what it enables. So we introduced this concept through HIP 51 in our community of Helium being a network of networks. Our initial thought was that Helium, like I've been thinking about Helium as a way to coordinate both from a social perspective and an economic perspective, different kinds of networks. And we have our IoT and our mobile network today, and they are iterating on their own. It's been pretty awesome to see how both the IoT and the mobile working groups are working now. I think they're like pretty functional. I think it is also like I think the last one of the last tips that were just passed was actually from outside of the mobile working group. It was from an author outside of the group, and I think that's also a very healthy thing. And I think that as I hear about other decentralized physical infrastructure networks launching and the struggles that they're having and the things that they would love to have support on, one of the things that I am hearing is it would be great to be part of the Helium ecosystem, and what does that look like? And so there are a couple of teams out there. I won't be very specific about who they are, but there are a couple of teams out there that are sort of interested in being part of this ecosystem, and I kind of just want to start that conversation, within our community, within our ecosystem, and like it has been really, really interesting to sort of walk through. What does this look like? What could this look like? And does the sub-DAO model, the subnetwork, and the sort of Helium backing these kinds of new networks work for some of these networks that are kind of thinking about us? Is this limited to just wireless networks, or can this be for any DPIN? What are the tools that we've built? I mean, I'll sort of talk about a few that have happened in the past where we've been involved. There was an interest in with the Wi-Fi DABA team to join as a sub-DAO. Ultimately, it didn't make sense for them, and they're sort of taking their own path. There was a VPN network that we thought might be interesting, and it turned out to be not interesting at all for a variety of reasons. And there's a lot of history there that people can kind of go look for. And then, I think when we look at future networks, I think it's really just a matter of like, is there some complementary benefit to the Helium ecosystem? And that's really the first thing that I would say. And the first question that I would answer is there a clear complementary value, right? Like it's pretty, on the wireless side or on the data side, it's pretty clear. For some of these other ones, there has to be some reason why it sort of grows the pie for Helium as a whole. Otherwise, we can certainly, co-market with them or do things with them as well. So I think that that's something that I've been spending a lot of my time on. We've been writing a lot and expect a little bit more from the foundation around this. I will say that there is one team that seems kind of ahead of everybody else. They'd love to share something with this community, and I ask this community to sort of welcome them and actually like ask the right questions around this. And I think first step is probably for us to talk a little bit about the way that we as a foundation think about these new networks, and how it fits in with the ultimate goal of HIP 51 and the network of networks, and then really just sort of suss it out, because ultimately the addition of a new subnetwork would really be in the hands of the HNT holders, and specifically the folks that are long-term aligned with the Helium network. So that's kind of what that was kind of my short little addition that I thought might be worthwhile for us to drop in here. I'll even post a little screenshot in a little bit, but outside of that, no other questions, unless there are specific questions that I can answer. Happy to move on.
Feel free to take a look at the chat on the sidebar there, and if you want to chime in, let me know. Otherwise, yeah, we can move forward.
And this is me maybe kind of leaking a little bit, but this is what a hip could look like for a new setup.
Everybody likes leaks. All right, well, we'll leave it there for now then. Thank you, Hashcode. Appreciate it. Moving forward, so I still don't see Zero tweets. I don't know if he's available today. So Waveform, if you have anything to add here as well. But we're going to go to Hips Past. So if you have any comments on them, let me know. Feel free to stop me here. So we've got Mobile Hip 114 that was passed. Incentive Escrow Fund for subscriber referrals. Next one up is Mobile HIP 118, verification mapping from mobile. Update from Zero Tweets as well. So if you have anything to add there, Waveform, feel free.
No, just wondering if anybody else from the mobile working group wants to cover those.
Yeah, if anyone from the group wants to hop up and mention anything, let me know. I think we've got one from Heated Lime up next as well, and I don't believe he's available. So
No, he's not
if anyone
available
wants to
today.
yeah, so if anyone wants to talk about it, by all means. Doesn't look like it though. Okay. Another HIP that was passed was Heated Limes. It was Mobile HIP 119, closing gaming loopholes within the mobile network. And we've got two more. Mobile HIP 122, amend service provider hex boosting. Fizzy, I know you're out here somewhere, so if you want to come up and say a word, feel free.
Don't mind if I do.
Take it away.
Yeah, so 122 has passed. The implementation, we have yet to hear an official word other than it will come first among 119. I hope it would be done by this month, but it may seep into next month. Just keep an eye out on that blockchain Discord fishbowl, and you'll probably be able to see the day it gets implemented as they push that code. Just a reminder, this will pretty much create a segment or bucket, if it doesn't matter really on the terminology, as some people have disputed, but it'll create a bucket for emissions to be for the boosted hexes, and any allotment that goes over that amount it basically can't go over that amount, that set amount. And this will kind of guardrail majority of emissions going to solely boosted locations in the future. And as if and when Nova Helium Mobile decides to wind this down, if they don't think boosting is going the way they think it is, that allotment will seep back into the regular POC rewards. But as it is now, we're basically allotting half of POC emissions to boosted hexes, and that's minus data transfer overflow. So this will be, in my opinion, a net positive for the network in general. But boosted hexes locations will take a hit of some kind, but it will also get better as 125 eliminates suspect gaming hotspots that are already within those boosted locations. So just keep an eye out for that blockchain channel for updates on it.
Awesome. Thank you, Fizzy. And that's a good segue into the next one we're going to talk about. Mobile HIP 125, like you mentioned, temporary anti-gaming measures for boosted hexes. Jay Hella, if you wanted to come up and give a little spiel on that too, feel free. I'll leave it there for a moment. I think Jay Hella might be gone now. Let's just double check before I move along. Okay, no, unfortunately I don't see him.
He was there a minute ago, a few minutes ago, yeah.
Okay, well, we can circle back again if he pops back in and wants to talk about HIP 125. I'll put the channel in the chat here. So I did it for 122 as well, and 125. Feel free to read up on those. And just before we move ahead one more time, the mobile working group meets every week on Thursdays. They meet at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 Pacific. Once again, just go to the Discord events. You'll see it in there as mobile working group. You can follow along. That call is also recorded, and it will be posted shortly after the call in the mobile working group channel, which I will post in the chat. There
JM
we
is
go.
here.
I'm sorry?
JM is here. Don't you call him up?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Can you speak, JM?
He's typing right now. Oh, he's driving, unfortunately. Okay. Got it. Well, we'll leave it at that then. We can always circle back if Jay Hella pops back in later on. So we're going to move to HIPs that are currently voting. So right now we've got IoT HIP 123, redefining IoT data only hotspot onboarding and assertion fees. So either Ductator or Neil, if you wanted to come up and talk on that one. All right, there we go. Come on up.
Yeah, happy to talk about it again. It's just coming up for vote now, and it's reducing data-only fees to 50 cents for onboarding and 50 cents for location asserts. No time frame. It's always going to be like that. We've come down to that decision because it's just, getting data-onlys on the hotspot is a win because it's just more DC burn. And if we can, get that cost down, there's 1,800 hotspots without a location at the moment, sending data to the network. So having that on a map would be fantastic because it just fills in some gaps wherever they use it. And arguably, they could be the most important hotspots on the network because they're transferring data. So having something on chain to represent them and lowering the barrier to do that is a really good idea. And it's up for vote. I think that covers it.
Yeah, perfect. And while you're up here, actually, if you can talk on the next one, next HIPs up for voting, IoT HIP 124, securing IoT governance through staking rewards.
Yeah, so the network was meant to have a way of users getting some return for their IoT stakes. So right now, if you lock a position and the treasury rate lowers down, then you're losing, some revenue. So there's a cost to voting, and this HIP has the idea that if we assign some of that functionality that would have happened with oracles, and with oracles, you would have staked against that oracle to say that it's and the oracle would have a required amount of stake to be useful for the network. So until we have that code in place, until we have that oracle system, we just assign 4% of the oracle bucket, which is currently burned, for rewards for locking up IoT. So whilst indirectly the HIP is just saying let's just reward for staking, and some people will just reward for staking and never vote. We believe the outcome is more people voting with locked positions, and it also means when something controversial comes up, rather than just trading straight out to Sol, people will have positions and more likely to use them. So people will get more of a say, and there's no cost to that voting. We did talk about doing required voting, so adding an abstain to option to HIPs and things like to votes, and what that would do and what it would look like. But we believe try with the carrot first. Try it this way. Let's see how this goes and see what the community thinks of the idea before we go to something like required voting. And it's ready. Basically, it's just foundation approval and then sign off.
Awesome. Thank you again. If you want to read about those HIPs, again, you can look in the chat. They're posted as HIP 123 and HIP 124. Feel free to jump into those channels and check the pins. Okay. Thank you, Neil. All right. We've got new HIPs and updates. So we've got IoT HIP 127, Dynamic IoT Proof of Coverage. Gradage. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Come on up.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Perfect. I'll keep this quick, get us out of here. Some changes we'd like to make to the beacon sent out by the for the IoT hotspots. So want to do that just to reduce the on-air time a little bit, be a good ISM like license-free band spectrum neighbor there. Just helps out a little bit with RF noise, etc. And just get as much data out of the beacons that are being sent as we possibly can. So LoRa can handle multiple data rates, and we want to be able to collect some of that data. So the changes are really in North America, our US 915 channel plan, reducing the number of bytes sent from 52 in the packet today to 24. Decreasing the EIRP in US 915 from 36 to 30, and adding random factors, I guess power data rate into the beacons being sent. Actually, and also I've got in there increasing the spreading factor from 9 to 10 in US 915 to since the maximum size was reduced, we can get some more data out of that faster band data rate. So I guess the reason you wouldn't want to do that right now, there's a little bit of concern about in less dense areas, how that's going to impact some of the rewards potentially. We're trying to figure out a way right now to integrate in the transmit scale. So, if you're in a less dense area, maybe the power is not reduced because we're not going to get any more information on something like that. I think that covers it at a fairly high level. Not quite complete, probably needs some help. There's a channel there. So if you've got some ideas, definitely want to hear them. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I put the HIP 127 channel in the chat, so feel free to jump in and give some feedback. That'd be awesome. I do see Zero Tweets has joined the stage. Thank you for joining. I'm going to circle back if that's okay with you. We're just going to ask for a mobile working group update if you got one.
Yep. Hey, everybody. Sorry for being late.
All good, all good.
So I think that the most important thing that has happened in the last week is a whole slew of HIPs that have been passed. I see in the agenda my name next to at least a few of them. Those have been discussed in the past, but just to quickly summarize, so HIP 114 has been passed. That HIP basically creates a framework for service providers on the network to reward various types of activities, such as referrals of new subscribers to the network participants. I've gone over this multiple times in previous calls, so I won't dive into the details of how it works. Just encourage you to read the HIP. Another super important HIP is HIP 118, that is verification mapping. So this is basically a HIP that now makes it possible for all of the subscribers to also act as a verification mappers by connecting to the hotspots and then cross-comparing the location versus the tower locations of known tower locations in case of Helium Mobile for T-Mobile, for instance. So that's passed and that's underway. And then there's a number of additional HIPs, which I'm not sure if it's worth going into the details, but most of them are related to helping close a variety of gaming loopholes, primarily related to boosted hexes. So it's improvements to what can and cannot be done for boosted hexes by service providers, as well as a variety of measures to basically identify and catch and stop gaming activity. So in general, I would say that these hits that have been passed, they at high level reflect the kind of a core themes that have been permeating for a lot of the discussions in the mobile working group as of late. I think that the most important theme being how to minimize and preclude gaming. So, and as you can see, a lot of these hits are like 118 through 125 pretty much are focused specifically on that. I see my name also next to the SaaS fees. So recently, we've announced SaaS fees. This is less of the working group update, but more of a, I think, Nova-specific service provider update. So as some of you may have heard, anybody who is operating a CBRS radio is required to pay a monthly fee for access to Spectrum, to the Spectrum Access System operator for, I think, over a year and a half. We've been covering the SaaS fees on behalf of the CBRS deployers, although we've explicitly stated that this is going to change eventually. So I think about a week and a half ago, we've made an official announcement that this is now changing and that those who are operating CBRS radios will have to start paying the Spectrum access fees, and announced specifics around how much that is, when that's going to happen, etc. So that's a fairly important thing that's been, I think, a topic of a lot of discussions in the community. Not exactly, I would say, mobile working group thing. It's more of like CBRS vendor to CBRS deployer thing, but nonetheless, I think an important thing to highlight that has happened in the last couple of weeks. So that's, I think, the highlights. Hear me in anywhere where, okay, all right, so I see the highlighted the flexible data pricing framework. So this is, I think, a fairly important but early conversation that's ongoing within the mobile working group. As some of you know, we've been engaging and running beta for data offload for some of the larger US-based operators at this point. And what we have learned is that basically, if we want to scale that, the existing framework that has been birthed, I think, as far back as like 2.5 years ago, where we just YOLO'd and said it's going to be 50 cents a gig, does not accurately reflect the realities of how data offload marketplaces function. So we've proposed a new framework that does two things. First of all, it creates a marketplace for pricing, such that various hotspot operators can actually propose how much they are willing to receive traffic for versus it being just fixed 50 cents. Every individual operator at the hotspot level can specify the pricing, and operators can actually bid on pricing across different locations. This way, you create a marketplace for the price, because in some locations it can be worth it to pay a lot more than 50 cents. But in most locations where operators already have, for example, coverage, 50 cents is way too expensive. And in fact, in some cases, like even if it's free, the operators won't use it. So HIP 126 introduces this capability to set dynamic pricing by hotspot operators. And then it introduces sort of like this theoretical competition framework where effectively each hotspot will compete to receive traffic from via offloading operators. So assuming that, the larger operators now can use the network, we no longer have this problem of subscriber density. Unless you have put your hotspot in a very bad place, there's a good chance that you will see a lot of people connecting, or at least attempting to connect. And then the idea here is that the hotspots, should compete for those connections. And if somebody, puts out like egregiously high pricing and nobody is connecting to that hotspot and sending traffic to that hotspot as a result of this, not only should they not earn the data rewards, but I think eventually their proof of coverage rewards should be affected as well. And this HIP 126 actually lays out a framework for how to gradually play with that idea, how to scale the proof of coverage pricing as a function of the utility that a particular hotspot brings to the table. So I would encourage everybody to read through this HIP. I think still there's going to be quite a bit of discussion happening, and we're going to be evolving it as we get more ideas from the community. But I think it's a pretty strategic and critical change. So encourage everybody to spend some time looking at that HIP.
Cool. Thank you very much. Just cruising through the chat here. First of all, I did put a couple of channels in the chat for you to read up on those HIPs. So HIP 114, 118, and 126. Feel free to peruse those. Just seeing a question for you there, Zero Tweets. I don't know if it's something you can answer or not. The question from Rarman. I don't know if you see that. What's Nova's attack plan for banning abusive boosted hotspots under 125? Not sure if that's something you can answer or not.
So the plan, like just to give everybody a context, I think 125 is the HIP that effectively allows Nova to preclude hotspots that are clearly gaming from receiving boosted rewards. The plan there is we are going to start auditing locations. And if you actually are in the area that is, has a lot of boosted locations and maybe have a reason to suspect that some of those locations are being gamed, please reach out. You can just DM myself or any of the other Nova folks in the channels. And the plan is that we'll recruit some number of, what we refer as like verified mappers to go and manually audit the locations where we believe there is high probability of gaming that's happening. And we'll start, exercising our power granted under 125 to eliminate boosted rewards for the gamers. So this is somewhat of a temporary measure, just to make a note, until 118 is online. This will allow us to actually move pretty quickly and sort of police the network, precluding blatant gaming that's happening. Longer term, we believe that 118 implementation will sort of automatically take care of that and will make this current measure irrelevant. But for now, that's kind of like the game plan. I see a question in the audience, like what will be the technical way to prevent them to get boosted rewards? So like 125 basically allows a service provider to who has boosted a certain location to effectively like flag that hotspot and preclude it from getting boosted rewards. So that's basically what we're going to be doing. Like we're going to be executing it per what's written in the HIP. And yes, this is the 125 only tackles the boosted rewards, not the regular. So the regular rewards will be unaffected.
Perfect. Okay. Well, we'll pause there for just a second to see if any more questions are coming in. Oh, we got one more. You see that one from Fizzy there?
Well, I think that the way, so yeah, basically the way it will work, from my understanding, is like once a hotspot is booted from getting boosted rewards, it's like the hotspot is sort of like in a shit list. So it can not just reassert itself in a different location and collect boosted rewards.
Perfect. Okay. Looks like that answered. All right. Well, it looks like we are getting close to the end of the call. So if there's any other questions, please pop them in chat. If we can't get to them, we can always get to them in the Discord itself. If you have any questions about any of these HIPs that we're talking about today, all the channels have been posted in the chat, so feel free to jump into those HIP channels and ask your questions there. Once again, this call has been recorded, so after this call is finished, you'll be able to go back and re-listen to the entire thing. It will be posted in Governance General. The next call, the next monthly call, is scheduled for July 24th. You can check that again in the events section of Discord. Set a little reminder bell for that. And one more quick reminder about the Ask Moken bot. Please give it a try. Play with it. Again, thank you, Moken guys, for letting us try this thing out. But just a reminder, please don't type any personal information, certainly not your seed phrase, anything into that. We, as moderators, can see your conversation, so we can jump in and assist when we need to. So we don't want to see any of your personal information either. It is not secure. Keep it out of there. All right. Other than that, thank you everyone for joining again. We will see you next month, and I hope you have a lovely rest of the week. Thank you, everyone. Talk to you soon.